Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today we are talking about the top 6 most valuable Washington quarter dollar coins that have shocked collectors and investors alike with their massive price tags. Some of these quarters are worth hundreds of thousands and one has even been estimated at over $1 million, so make sure you watch until the end because you never know if one of these coins might be in your pocket. Right now we are diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1966 Washington quarter. We will explore its history, the key factors that affect its value, rare varieties you should look for, and what this coin is worth in the current market. Let's start with a little background. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It became a permanent part of U.S. coinage soon after. The 1966 quarter is part of an important transitional period in U.S. coin history. Just 1 year earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint removed silver from most circulating coins due to rising silver prices and a coin shortage. That means the 1966 Washington quarter was struck with a clad composition, no silver. It consists of copper and nickel bonded to a pure copper core. Despite not containing silver, the 1966 Washington quarter is still considered collectible. Over 800 million of these quarters were minted, which means they're not rare in average condition. But as you'll find out, some specific examples can still be worth a small fortune. Here's WHY.IN 1966, the U.S. Mint did not use mint marks on quarters. That was part of their strategy to discourage coin hoarding during the silver transition. So whether your 1966 quarter was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it won't have a mint mark. But don't let that fool you. Even without a mint mark, condition, strike quality, and errors can make a huge difference in value. Let's talk about condition first. In circulated condition, most 1966 quarters are worth only face value. But if you have a quarter in uncirculated condition, especially those graded MS65 or higher, they start becoming valuable. MS stands for mint state, and coins are graded on a 70-point scale. A coin graded MS65 is a gem-quality coin with strong luster and only minor marks. An MS65 1966 quarter can sell for $10 to $20. Go a step higher, and an MS67 coin can fetch well over $100. Why such a jump? Because high-grade coins are extremely hard to find. Out of hundreds of millions minted, only a tiny fraction remain in pristine condition, but the real money comes from rare varieties and errors. One of the most sought-after 1966 quarter errors is the double die obverse, where elements of the coin's design appear doubled. These are usually visible on the date, the letters in Liberty, and In God We Trust. Depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's condition, these errors can bring in several $100s or more. Another popular error is the struck on wrong planchet error. This happens when a quarter is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another coin, like a dime or even a foreign coin. These types of errors are incredibly rare and can sell for thousands of dollars at auction. Some examples have sold for over $5,000 because of their rarity and collector demand. There are also off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and broad-struck errors, all of which add to the coin's appeal and value. Collectors pay top dollar for these dramatic mistakes, especially if they're in high grade and the error is easy to see. Another important version of the 1966 quarter is the Special Mint Set or SMS coin. Because the U.S. Mint didn't issue proof sets from 1965 to 1967, they instead made these special mint sets with higher quality strikes and finishes. These coins are shinier and have more detail than regular business strikes. While SMS quarters aren't extremely rare, coins from these sets graded SP67 or higher can fetch premium prices. Some examples in SP68 condition have sold for over $100, especially if they have a cameo or deep cameo finish. These finishes make the coin look almost like a proof coin, with frosted details and mirrored backgrounds. So what is the 1966 quarter worth today? In average circulated condition, most 1966 quarters are still worth just 25 cents. But in mint state 65, you might get $15 to $20. In mint state 67, the value can jump to over $100. If your coin has a rare error, the value can range from several hundred to several $1,000s, and if you have a special mint set coin in superb condition, with cameo or deep cameo finish, it could also be worth well over $100 or more. If you want to find out how much your quarter is worth, your best bet is to get it graded by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies evaluate the coin's authenticity, quality, and any potential errors. Once graded, you can compare your coin to recent auction sales to see its current market value. Let's recap. The 1966 Washington quarter may not have any silver content, but it holds serious value for collectors. Whether it's a high-grade mint state coin, a special mint set quarter with cameo finish, or a rare error like a double die or off-metal strike, these coins can be worth much more than face value. If you've got a roll of old quarters or even just a few from your pocket change, take a closer look. That 1966 quarter could be your lucky find. Keep an eye out for doubling, off-center strikes, or an unusually sharp finish. Every coin tells a story, and some tell one that's worth real money. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating pieces of American coinage history, the 1981 P. Washington quarter dollar. This seemingly ordinary coin could actually be worth big money, and today we're going to explore why. Before you spend a quarter or drop it into a vending machine, stop and listen, because you might be holding a piece of rare numismatic gold, not literally gold of course, but certainly valuable in the eyes of collectors. Let's begin with a little history. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It replaced the standing Liberty quarter, and it quickly became a staple of American currency. The obverse features the profile of George Washington based on a bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon, while the reverse traditionally displayed an eagle with outspread wings. Fast forward to 1981 and the design hadn't changed much. The 1981 Washington quarter was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Today we're focusing on the Philadelphia Mint, which is marked by the letter P. In fact, the 1981 P quarter is notable because it was one of the last quarters before the widespread appearance of the P mint mark, which only became standard on quarters starting in 1980. Now here's where it gets interesting. In total, over 601 million Washington quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1981. That's a lot of coins, but rarity and value in numismatics don't always depend on mintage numbers. It's all about condition, errors, and demand. Most 1981 P quarters in circulation are worth just 25 cents, but in uncirculated condition, or if they have rare minting errors, they can be worth much more. A standard uncirculated 1981 P quarter graded MS65 by PCGS or NGC can fetch between $10 and $30, but here's the kicker: certain coins in higher grades like MS67 or higher have sold for hundreds of dollars because they're incredibly hard to find in such pristine condition. Let's talk about the biggest money makers, the error coins. Some of the most sought after 1981 P Washington quarters include off-center strikes, double dies, and clipped planchets. One major variety to look for is the double die obverse. This error features noticeable doubling in the lettering, especially around the word Liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." Collectors will also pay a premium for coins that were struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a 1981 P quarter accidentally struck on a 5-cent nickel planchet would be smaller and lighter, but potentially worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition and certification. Now let's talk about condition and grading, because this is where things get really serious. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A circulated 1981 P quarter typically grades between 10 and 40 and is worth face value, but coins in mint state condition MS60 and above start to command premiums. Coins graded MS65 are sharp with strong luster and minimal marks. MS67 examples are extremely rare and can sell for $300 or more at auction. In fact, according to auction records, a 1981 P quarter graded MS67 by PCGS once sold for over $500. That's over 2,000 times its face value. Another thing to note is full strike details, especially the eagle's feathers on the reverse. If the details are fully struck and clear, that adds to the value. Now let's dive into the current market trends. As of 2025, the coin collecting market has seen a steady rise in demand for high-grade Washington quarters. The 1981 P is not the rarest quarter, but it is part of a transitional era just before the modern clad coins became standard. The interest in these transitional period coins has driven up prices, especially for gem-quality pieces. Online marketplaces like eBay, Heritage Auctions, and Great Collections show frequent listings of 1981 P quarters graded MS65 and higher. Many of these sell quickly because collectors know how difficult it is to find them in top condition. You may even come across raw Or uncertified coins being sold for $10 to $20 if the seller suspects high quality, but be cautious. Authentication and grading are key. If you think you have a valuable 1981 P quarter, get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. It's the best way to know its true market value and gives buyers confidence if you ever decide to sell. So what should you look for in your change or coin jar? Start with the basics. Check for the P mint mark on the obverse. Look at the overall condition. Is it heavily worn, or does it still have that original mint luster? Next, use a magnifying glass to look for any signs of doubling or unusual errors. Check the edge. Is the reading consistent, or is there a clipped or smooth area? Any of these characteristics could mean your coin is worth far more than 25 cents. And remember, not all valuable coins look flashy. Some of the most expensive error coins appear very subtle to the untrained eye. That's why careful examination is so important. Let's recap the 1981 P. Washington quarter might look ordinary, but it holds potential value due to rarity in high grades, mint errors, and current market demand. Most are worth face value, but uncirculated or error varieties can fetch $10, $50, even $500 or more. The key is condition and certification. We are diving deep into the world of Washington quarters and specifically focusing on the 1987 P Washington quarter dollar. If you have one of these coins sitting in a drawer or change jar, you may want to take a closer look, because while most are common, a few are worth a surprising amount of money. Let's start by going back in time and exploring the history of the Washington quarter series. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It replaced the standing Liberty quarter and has remained in circulation ever since. Over the decades there have been changes in composition, mint marks, and designs, but the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse has remained largely the same. Fast forward to 1987, the year we're focusing on. The 1987 Washington quarter with the P mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. It was struck in a composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, also known as a copper nickel-clad coin. This means it's not made of silver like pre-1965 quarters and generally holds only face value. However, there are always exceptions. In 1987 the Philadelphia Mint struck over 582 million quarters. That is a massive mintage, which usually means the coin is very common and not valuable beyond its face value unless it is in mint state condition or has some kind of error or rarity. So what exactly should you be looking for in a 1987 P quarter? Let's start with mint condition coins. A 1987 P quarter in circulated condition is worth just 25 cents. That's no surprise, but if you have one in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially in MS 65 or higher, the value goes up significantly. An MS 65 example can sell for between $5 and $15 depending on the market. An MS 66 coin can reach up to $40 or more. These values might not seem huge, but considering the coin's face value, that's still a big increase. A perfect MS 67 or higher is extremely rare and could be worth over $100 at auction. Now let's talk about errors and varieties. This is where things get really exciting. Some rare mint errors can make an ordinary quarter worth big money. Here are a few known types to watch out for. First, the off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't aligned properly when struck. If it's more than 10% off-center and still shows the date and mint mark, it could be worth $100 or more. Second, the double die. Obverse or reverse. A double die is a type of error where the coin is struck with a die that has a doubled image, creating a noticeable doubling effect on the date, lettering, or other parts of the design. While there are no widely recognized double dies for the 1987 P quarter, they can still appear and fetch hundreds of dollars depending on how visible and dramatic the doubling is. Third, the clipped planchet error. This occurs when a coin is struck on an incomplete metal blank, resulting in a missing piece of the coin. These can be worth $50 to $150 or more based on size and shape. Another error to keep an eye out for is the struck-through grease error or missing details on the coin's surface. This type of error is more common, but collectors still pay a premium for examples where design details are significantly missing or distorted. There's also a growing interest in coins with repunched mint marks or RPMs, although these are more common in older coins. If a 1987 P quarter is found with an RPM, it could become a highly desirable piece. Let's now take a quick look at recent auction results to see what collectors are paying in recent years. A 1987 P Washington quarter graded MS 67 by PCGS sold for over $250 at auction. That's a big return for a coin you could pull from a bankroll. Another example, a 1987 P with a strong off-center error and full date visible sold for over $175 on eBay. It all comes down to condition and uniqueness. You may be wondering how to tell if your 1987 P quarter is worth grading or selling. Here are a few tips. 1. Check the coin's surface under a magnifier. Look for clean, sharp details and little to no wear. If you see scratches, dings or loss of detail, it's likely circulated and not worth much more than face value. 2. Look for errors or anomalies. Anything that looks unusual is worth a second opinion. You can compare your coin with reference images online or take it to a local coin dealer. 3. If your coin appears uncirculated with no wear, you can consider submitting it to a third party grading service like PCGS or NGC. Keep in mind grading fees apply, so it's best if you believe your coin is a high-end example. Now let's talk about the current market value and what's happening in 2025. As of this year, the demand for high-grade Washington quarters remains steady. Collectors are especially interested in coins from the 1980s and high mint state grades because many were poorly preserved during those years. If you find a 1987 P quarter in mint state or with a rare error, you could definitely get a strong premium. Uncirculated rolls of 1987 P quarters are also gaining value with rising interest in modern coinage. Full rolls can sell for $20 to $30 or more depending on condition. So what's the bottom line? The 1987 P Washington quarter is generally a common coin, but in mint condition or with the right error it can be worth a lot more than 25 cents. While most found in circulation are not valuable, it's always worth checking your change and coin jars because rare gems do turn up. Collectors value high-grade coins, unique mint errors and examples with historical interest. The market for coins is always changing and the value of even recent-date coins like the 1987 P quarter can surprise you. We're diving into one of the most talked about coins among collectors, the 1988 D Washington quarter dollar. At first glance it may look like just another regular coin, but don't be fooled. Some of these quarters are turning heads and making waves in the coin world with values that may shock you. From historical background to valuable errors and current market prices, we'll cover it all. So stay tuned because you might have one of these quarters in your pocket right now and not even know its true worth. Let's start with a bit of background. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States. The design by John Flanagan features a left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse, and for decades this design remained virtually unchanged. By 1988 the Washington quarter had been a staple in American coinage for over 50 years. Now on to the 1988 D quarter. Specifically, the D mint mark indicates that this quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the main mints in the United States responsible for producing coins for circulation. In 1988 over 596 million Washington quarters were minted at Denver alone. That's right, over 500 million coins. So you might be wondering, how could such a common coin be worth anything today? Well, here's the secret. It's not just the coin itself. It's about the condition, rarity and sometimes errors. Let's talk about each one. First, let's cover condition. When it comes to coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect flawless coin known as mint state. Most coins you find in circulation are in poor to average condition. But a 1988 D quarter graded mint state 67 or higher can fetch serious money at auction. In fact, according to auction records, a 1988 D Washington quarter in MS 67 condition has sold for over $700. That's right, a small 25-cent coin bringing in hundreds of dollars simply because it was preserved well. Next, let's talk about errors. This is where things get really interesting. Some of the most valuable 1988 D quarters aren't just well preserved, they have unique minting mistakes that make them highly collectible. Known error types include off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets and die cracks. A double die error can show up as doubling on the letters or numbers, especially in the words Liberty or In God We Trust. These errors occur during the striking process and are highly sought after by collectors. An off-center strike where the design is not centered on the coin can also bring in hundreds of dollars depending on how dramatic the error is. Some 1988 D quarters also have a missing clad layer revealing the copper core beneath. This gives the coin a reddish appearance on one side. These errors are rare and can be worth between $100 and $500 or more depending on condition. Now what about current market values in 2025? If you have a circulated 1988 D quarter without any errors or special condition, it's still worth face value, which is 25 cents. However, if you find one in extremely high grade or with a verified error, you could be looking at a coin worth anywhere from $50 to over $1,000. The highest price ever paid for a 1988 D quarter was over $1,800 for a superb gem MS-67 coin with brilliant luster and flawless surfaces. Prices vary depending on demand and collector interest, but certified coins in high grades continue to rise in value year after year. The coin market is especially hot right now for Washington quarters from the 1980s and 1990s in pristine condition due to their increasing scarcity. So how do you know if your quarter is valuable? Here are a few steps you can take. First, examine the coin closely under good lighting. Look for any doubling in the letters or numbers. Check the edges to see if the clad layer is missing. Use a magnifying glass if needed. Second, weigh the coin. A normal quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If your coin weighs significantly more or less, it could be a minting error. Third, consider getting your coin graded by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. A professional grade can dramatically increase the coin's value and help confirm its authenticity. And finally, always compare recent auction prices. Websites like eBay, Heritage Auctions and Great Collections can show you what similar coins have sold for recently. This gives you a good sense of what the current market is willing to pay. To wrap things up, the 1988 D Washington quarter may seem common, but under the right conditions it can be worth a fortune. Whether it's due to its condition, an unusual error, or simply collector demand, this coin proves that sometimes the most ordinary things can turn out to be extraordinary. So next time you're sorting through change or browsing through an old coin collection, keep your eyes peeled. That 1988 D quarter might just be your hidden treasure. We're diving deep into one of the most exciting coins in modern American numismatics. We're talking about the 1999 Washington State Quarter Series, specifically the Denver Mint and Philadelphia Mint versions, and how some of these coins are worth big money today. So if you've got spare change lying around or a stash of quarters from the late 90s, you definitely want to stay tuned. Now, before we get into coin values, let's take a step back and understand the historical context of these quarters. In 1999, the United States Mint launched the State Quarters program. It was one of the most successful coin programs in U.S. history. Every state in the country would get its own quarter design, with 5 states being released each year. The program kicked off with Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut, and it was wildly popular. Suddenly millions of Americans were checking their change again, hoping to collect all 50. Now, what makes the 1999 quarter special is not just their novelty or design. It's that the first year of the State Quarters program came with its fair share of minting errors, production quirks, and low mintage rarities that are now highly sought after by collectors. Let's start with the 1999 Delaware quarter struck in Philadelphia. This was the very first state quarter released. Some of these coins have errors like the spitting horse, a die crack that looks like a stream coming out of Caesar Rodney's horse's mouth. These quirky errors can increase the value significantly. A regular 1999 Delaware quarter in circulated condition is worth face value, but if you have one in mint state, especially MS-67 or higher, it can be worth $20 to $100, and that's just the beginning. The real value comes in error coins and high-grade certified examples. Now let's move to the 1999 D Georgia quarter. This one is a hot topic among collectors for several reasons. First off, coins from the Denver Mint with a high grade, especially those graded MS-68 by PCGS or NGC, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In fact, one example sold at auction for over $3,000. Why so much? Because high-grade state quarters are incredibly hard to find, especially from 1999. The Mint was still refining the production process, and many coins came out with bag marks or weak strikes, so finding one in pristine condition is like striking gold. Next up, the Connecticut quarter. It was the last of the 5 released in 1999. This quarter features the famous Charter Oak tree. The Philadelphia and Denver versions are both collectible, but once again it's the errors that push values into the stratosphere. There are known off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and double dies from this year. An off-center Connecticut quarter with a clear date can easily bring in $50 to $200 or more. Now let's talk about double die errors. There are some 1999 quarters with doubling on the lettering or the state outlines. These coins are incredibly rare, but they have been discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. Some double die errors have sold for over $500 even in circulated condition. So what should you be looking for? Here's a checklist. Number 1, check the mint mark. P stands for Philadelphia and D stands for Denver. Coins from both mints can have value depending on condition and errors. Number 2, look closely at the design elements. Are there die cracks, missing details, doubling, or misaligned strikes? If yes, you might have a treasure. Number 3, consider getting your coin graded if it appears Flawless grading by PCGS or NGC gives your coin credibility and increases its value potential. Now let's talk current market values as of this year. A regular 1999 D or 1999 P quarter is still only worth 25 cents in average circulation, but once you reach mint state 65 or higher the value climbs to between $10 and $40. Go above MS 67 and the value jumps to hundreds. Rare examples in MS 68 condition have sold for upwards of $1,000 to $300, and any error coin, whether it's a die break, a double die, or an off-center strike, can multiply that value, especially if it's graded and authenticated. So what's the takeaway? The 1999 Washington Quarter Series marked the beginning of a new era in American coin collecting, and because of its importance, its novelty, and its errors, some of these quarters have become hidden gems. You might already have one sitting in your pocket or coin jar right now, so grab a magnifier, take a good look, and who knows, you could be holding a coin worth a small fortune. We dive into the world of coins, collectibles, and hidden treasures sitting right in your pocket. Change. Today we're going to talk about a modern coin that's stirring up excitement among collectors and sellers alike. That's right, we're diving deep into the 2021 P Washington Quarter Dollar, a seemingly ordinary coin that could be worth a whole lot more than 25 cents. You'll want to stick around until the end because we're talking history, errors, varieties, and some shocking prices from the current market that you won't believe. Let's start with the basics. The 2021 quarter is part of the American Women Quarters Program transitional period, but this specific year, 2021, was actually unique. It marked the final issue in the America the Beautiful Quarter series and returned to a slightly modified version of the original Washington obverse design. The obverse, or front side, features the classic portrait of George Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan in 1932, but updated by the U.S. Mint for a fresher modern strike. The reverse design in 2021 featured the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site, the last in a series of 56 designs that began in 2010. Now let's talk mint marks. The 2021 P quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and millions were produced, in fact, over 225 million. But here's where things get interesting. Just because there were a lot made doesn't mean they're all worth face value. Some of these quarters are striking big money because of mint errors, special die varieties, and high-grade conditions that coin grading companies are paying very close attention to. One of the key things to look for is mint errors. And the 2021 P quarter has a number of known varieties that are commanding premium prices. For example, some coins have die breaks, or what's commonly called die chips, little blobs of extra metal that appear in places like Washington's hat or letters on the coin. These are sometimes nicknamed things like the drooling Washington or the spitting eagle, depending on where the extra metal appears, but that's not all. One of the most sought-after errors in the 2021 P Tuskegee Airmen quarters is the retained cud or die break on the obverse, where a chunk of the die actually breaks and leaves a raised area of metal. These are rare, and if you find one in good condition, collectors might be willing to pay $50, $100, even $300 or more depending on the size and location of the break. Let's take a second to talk about condition and grading. If you have a coin that looks perfect, no scratches, full luster, no wear, it might be what's called mint state or MS condition. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, and coins graded MS 65 and above can start to become quite valuable. A 2021 P quarter graded MS 67 by a top grading company like PCGS or NGC can sell for between $75 and $200. And get this, the highest recorded sale for a 2021 P Washington quarter in mint state 68 went for over $600 in an auction. That's a massive return on a coin that could be sitting in your change jar right now. You might be wondering, how do I know if my 2021 P quarter is worth anything? Well, start by checking the mint mark. If you see AP under the word "In God We Trust" on the front of the coin, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Next, look at the condition. If it has no signs of circulation, sharp detail, and a bright surface, it might be worth sending in for grading. Finally, use a magnifying glass or zoom lens to look for any doubling in the letters or numbers, odd lumps of metal, or anything that looks unusual. These could be signs of valuable errors or varieties. Now let's shift to the current market. As of now in 2025, prices for the 2021 P quarter can range widely. In circulated condition, most coins are still worth 25 cents. But lightly circulated ones with minor die chips are selling for $2 to $10 on sites like eBay. Coins with more dramatic die breaks or unusual errors have been listed and sold for between $25 and $150. High-grade certified coins graded MS-67 or higher are the true stars, with sales often crossing the $200 to $600 mark depending on how clean the surfaces are and how rare the grade is. Keep in mind that out of millions of coins, only a handful will grade that high, and here's a bonus tip: look out for rolls or bags of 2021 P quarters that might still be in original US Mint packaging or unsearched condition. Sometimes entire rolls can be found with multiple errors, and these rolls are in high demand. Some error-filled rolls have sold for hundreds of dollars just because collectors are hoping to hit the jackpot with a rare variety inside. So to recap, yes, the 2021 P Washington quarter dollar might look like an ordinary coin, but there's a lot going on beneath the surface. Whether it's a valuable error, a rare die chip, or a pristine high-grade example, this coin has the potential to bring in some serious profit. Check your pocket change, your coin jars, even those random quarters stuck in your car cup holder. You never know what treasure you might find. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more coin collecting content, and drop a comment down below if you found a 2021 P quarter with any interesting features. Who knows, your coin might be worth more than you think. Until next time, happy hunting and good luck out there in the wild world of coin collecting.